Well, further developments today at the University of Oklahoma with the complete chaos that has erupted with Samantha Fulnecki. If that does not ring a bell, that is the young woman who filed a complaint of religious discrimination for getting a zero on, quite frankly, a horribly written essay. And the teacher's assistant who graded her essay was trans, and she is apparently a Christian nationalist. It appears that way. Uh, Further developments today. There was a protest at the University of Oklahoma. Hundreds of students protested in support of the teacher who was suspended, and of course, that resulted in another teacher's suspension. Yes, because another teacher at the University of Oklahoma allowed her students, gave them an excused absence to attend the protest. So Turning Point USA, who has their dirty little fingers in the middle of all of this, of course, filed a complaint against her. They are claiming that she would not give an excused absence to the kids who wanted to counter protest. The teacher who was suspended is saying that's not true. That she offered excused absences for the entire class. What the facts of that are at this time are not known. But the point is, the University of Oklahoma and the way they've handled this, they've got a big mess on their hands. When the initial complaint was filed from the student, the University of Oklahoma resolved that in an hour because they knew what they were up against. That is typically a process that takes weeks. So her complaint was resolved immediately, and they told her it would not impact her grade in any way. Now we have two teachers that are suspended for the rest of the semesters at least until these ongoing investigations are finished. I have a hard time understanding why they can complete and resolve the student's problem in an hour and can't figure out what to do with these teachers for the rest of the semester. But the point is, the reason the University of Oklahoma cannot manage this situation is because they are trying to manage it from a perspective or a standpoint of fear of the Donald Trump administration. Because now that Turning Point USA has planted its flag at the University of Oklahoma, the University of Oklahoma must do what Turning Point USA says. And if the University of Oklahoma doesn't do what Turning Point USA says, then guess who gets a phone call? The President of the United States. And then you're looking at funding being canceled. You're looking at lawsuits. You're looking at all kinds of stuff. And I don't know how much funding the University of Oklahoma gets. I don't care. But the point is, we have now placed this institution, this organization. I don't want to call it an institution. It's not an institution. As far as I am concerned, it's a hate group, and that is Turning Point USA. We have placed them in all of these universities around the country, and with the president that we currently have in the office, they can do whatever they want. And if they don't get what they want, he gets a phone call. So these universities face, completely being defunded if Turning Point USA doesn't get what they want. In effect, Turning Point USA will eventually be calling the shots at these universities. They get to do what they want. They get to get rid of the teachers they want. And since the University of Oklahoma has decided to handle this thing out of fear, instead of standing up to the bully in the White House and standing up to the bullies at Turning Point USA, since they've decided to be, fraidy cats, for lack of a better word, then they're having, what is happening right now is an escalating situation at the University of Oklahoma because they didn't want to deal with Donald Trump. That is what they fear. And it is unbelievable to me that we are in this situation in our country with our universities. And the really bad part is the University of Oklahoma is actually a really good school. And this is going to be a stain on them for a long time. But they're in Oklahoma. How much money do they get from private donors, from wealthy private donors in the state? And this is why our schools should not be bought. And they basically are bought. But Oklahoma's, stance of trying to keep everyone happy and trying to make all this go away quickly, that's never going to work. That's never going to work. Because what's happening there is not right. A student wrote a horrible paper. She didn't even put her freaking name on it. How could she not get a 0? Likely did it on purpose just to create this situation. There's been a lot of talk about her mother and how she's done this time and time and time again in the past in her state of Missouri. It is really looking to a lot of people like this entire thing was a political operation from the get-go. And I want to see Samantha Fulnecki's work that she turned in before this essay. I want to see how different it looks. She says she's gotten a perfect score on everything she's ever done in that class. She's either completely lying through her teeth or she's not. And if she's not, you have to ask the question, did she write that essay the way she did on purpose? Because it's really bad. If you haven't read it, it is horrible. And that would explain the whole theory of the whole thing being a setup. Because her mother has been trying to get the attention of Donald Trump for 10 years and doing stuff like this to try to get it. And here we are. The students at the university are not happy about this at all. Naturally, the university is devaluing their degrees as far as they are concerned. They're making the state look stupid. They're making the students look stupid. They're making the school look bad. Because they're afraid of Donald Trump. Hell, I would rather they just come out and say, you know what? We're afraid of Donald Trump. We don't know what to do. At least they're being honest. At least they're being honest. So yes, another teacher now suspended from another complaint. This one from Turning Point directly. The president of the Turning Point chapter at the University of Oklahoma filed the complaint himself. None of the students in the class complained. This was directly from the charter president, or I don't know if you call it a charter or chapter or whatever you want to call it. That's who filed the complaint. He's not even in the class. They immediately suspended the teacher. This is the power and the control that we've given this group. And, I personally, I'm just being honest. I feel like this group is straying far away from what was, I believe, the vision of Charlie Kirk. I don't think the things that Turning Point USA are doing right now are necessarily things that Charlie Kirk would have had in mind. I think they are further distorting his sort of vision. And I could be wrong about that. But when I go back and I think about the things he spoke about and talked about, and no, I didn't agree with anything really that Charlie Kirk said because he didn't know that much about anything. He was talking to kids. He talked a lot about DEI. He never had a job his whole life. What does he know about DEI? He never worked for a completely unqualified white guy that got there because his brother-in-law hired him. He knows nothing about DEI, or knew nothing about DEI. But the point still remains. I think Turning Point is straying. And it's fine if you disagree with me. But regardless, to have them in however many schools they're in now, this should be frightening that these groups have this much power. I personally think they should be removed. If this is what you're doing with your time, if you're not doing something positive, you don't belong. And all they are doing is creating chaos through claims of religious persecution. Somehow, the student of Turning Point USA, who isn't even in that class, goes and files a complaint. No student filed a complaint. He went and filed the complaint. Teacher suspended immediately. I don't agree with that at all. And the University of Oklahoma is really dropping the ball on this thing. You have to stand up to bullies. You have to stand up to bullies. This thing should have been resolved when OU quickly resolved the grade issue with the first student. But what OU didn't understand is that this is never going to be resolved. You still have 2 teachers suspended. You still have Turning Point. You still have this girl all over the news, hitting every major outlet she can, trying to become the next Riley Gaines, apparently. This isn't something that's just going to go away. You can't just fix this by adjusting her grade quickly and expeditiously. That's not how this works. A fight has been brought to your campus. A fight, a war is being waged against your professors, and you're not standing up for them. You're not standing up for your students. You're not standing up for the credibility of your own school. You're cowering to people that have too much power. And you should be ashamed. Let me know what you think in the comments section. I really appreciate all my new followers and subscribers. I hope you guys have a great weekend.